I'm not. I can't afford to not record.
Welcome to season 6 of the Be Your Own Kind podcast, where we believe that you deserve the space to just be. I'm so excited to share another season with you, packed with fresh perspectives, practical tools, and inspiration to enhance your already amazing self. I hope you enjoy the new content just as much as I've loved bringing it to you. Stay inspired and always remember to be your own kind. Well, hello, Marcus. How are you today?
I'm doing extremely well. Thank you for having me. You have a great show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's going to be even greater because now you're a part of it. So thanks for being a guest today.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so I am a warrior for God, hailing all the way from the St. Croix Virgin Islands. I found my way here. I'm currently residing in Virginia via the military. So I found my way to the continental United States via the military, served my time, and then got out and stayed here and, started working like everyone else, and then kind of fell into entrepreneurship through a multi-level marketing company, thou shall not be named, but it gave me a taste for business and entrepreneurship, and no one in my direct family, immediate family, were entrepreneurs. So it was new to me, and especially with, when it comes to things about talking like money, right? Money, finances, and things of that nature, the areas that we typically don't do well, we're improving, but we don't do well typically in. And so entrepreneurship did the mind shift. And then, in multi-level marketing, they introduced me to several books. One of the biggest ones that everybody talks about is Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then the wheels started turning from there. And so, I've long time ago left the multi-level marketing business, but I remained business focused. And so began researching and learning and expanding, and realized that, oh my God, I need to be investing, not just stashing money away in a savings account. And now today I'm fully self-employed, run several companies, including a podcast called Gentleman Style Podcast, God, Family, Finance, Self. And so all the different things I do, but that's my pride and joy right now. So yeah.
Wow. So you were in the military,
Yes, ma'am.
got into one of those, I always call them the pyramid companies, but one of those things. But but I know that they get a bad rep, but like you said, you learn things from those, from being a part of some of those. I know a lot of people that have branched out from those type of companies become entrepreneurs like yourself, like, hey,
Sure.
I can do this and I don't have to pull from somebody or do a pyramid in order to make money. I can do it the legit way because they do have you read all these books and kind of prepare you a little bit for the entrepreneur world, which is not for the weak. So
Not. It's not.
yeah.
I tell people now, like whenever I get approached by the Mary Kay consultant or the whatever multi-level marketing company it is, travel is the big thing now, right? Everybody's a travel
Mhm.
agent all of a sudden. And so whenever I get approached by those people, I tell them, it's like, listen, you'd be much better off by yourself. You could do the exact same thing for yourself. You don't need the company. You don't need all of this foolishness, right? And then if you actually look at the compensation, where is your money coming from? Where is your big money coming from? Is it coming from selling the travel packages, or is it really coming from you getting people under you and getting, now you're a national director. Oh, you got 6 more people under you. Now you're the premier director and all this stuff. And it's like, you could do all of that. You're on your own, and you don't need that to be getting bits and crumbles. Like the craziest thing to me is when was a part of this multi-level marketing. They did both, right? They had a product, but they also recruited for getting people under you. And I sold a product, and the product was like, like $200. And out of the $200, they gave me 20. So I flipped. And when I realized the insanity of this, I said, why can't I just flip it? And I'm the one that's getting the $200, and I pay someone substantially more than $20, but I can now be on that side. And that's where real wealth and legacy and business is built. It's not on the $20, it's built on the $200 that you received.
And that's very logical. And I think most people like the cushion though, because if you don't sell the product, you're still you still got a cushion within that company. Like entrepreneurship is scary because, as I said, like you don't have that. If
Right.
either you're gonna fail or you're gonna succeed.
Right.
And sometimes it'll take a couple of tries, and so it takes a lot of courage to just step out on your own. And go for it, and you went for it a couple of times because like you said, you have multiple streams, multiple streams of income. I'm trying to figure out how you find the time for anything, but I admire people like you all. Like, I mean, I tried I tried two streams and I'm like, yeah, but I think it's like I work a 9 to 5. I'm there from 9 to 5. This the entrepreneur part, I am always on. There is no off unless you carve out that time to take off. But entrepreneurship is like a 24/7, and it solely relies on your consistency, your creativity, your marketing. Like it's all on your shoulders. And so it's scary when you start off that way, and you have to wait in order to get to get revenue or to make income from that, or profit.
Mhm.
So I think that's one reason why people like to be in those companies, because you still have that cushion, so you can get that mentorship, or the people under you can help, build you up monetarily until you can, get your little sales tactic. I don't know. That's just my little blurb about
I
it.
hear you. I
Yeah,
totally hear you. And working a 9 to 5 is not wrong, especially in the startup phase in any entrepreneurship endeavor, right? I started there. We all started there. So there's nothing inherently wrong about it. I think COVID, like so many people, showed us that this can no longer be just a hobby. COVID-19 showed a lot of people that that hobby was actually your safe net, because I think everybody and their grandma was selling on Etsy. And I can't tell you how many TikTok lives and Facebook lives where this couple is like emptying out their closet and they're like, these earrings going for $2. And baby, let me tell you, these the ones that got me my husband at church. Like everybody was looking at that hobby and really trying to monetize, because jobs were laying off, people were getting sick, and it really showed us something that we should have been doing all along, which
yeah,
is your employer is nice, but the business aspect is also changing. It's nice to have benefits. It's nice to have health insurance. It's nice to have life insurance. It's nice to have that steady paycheck that you can kind of depend on, right? As long as you follow these rules and corporate structure. But
right.
it's no longer the permanent things, because the days of working a company 30, 40 years, right? And getting a pension out of it is gone. The days of I'll retire and Social Security be there, it's gone, because Social Security has announced, hey, we're about to run out of money by this time period. And so the things that typically you would stay for a long time are gone. So what do? You have to change, and we all have to evolve, and we have to change. And entrepreneurship can be, especially like you said, like you pointed out, having those people under you, having those people above you to help and guide you and nurture you and give you the material. So even if you don't win here, you can still exceed out there on your own and do it. So there is that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. We wouldn't. This podcast came out of COVID. Me freelancing came out of COVID. You are so correct. It's like, okay, well, I can't really see people face to face, so what can I do now? And it's like, even though Zoom and all these things were here, they were very prevalent in 2020. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just like, now I could talk to people all over the world when I was just trying to talk to people in my local area. So you're right. It expanded minds, and you're right. TikTok was really popping. And everyone always talking about, well, I just can't wait to get back to normal. And I'm like, this is our new normal. I don't think we're ever going back to pre-COVID life like ever again.
Hmm. But employers are trying, right? They're trying. I think it was a couple companies just announced, no more working from home, no more teleworking. Are you kidding me? Right? Corporations have been fighting this thing for years. And then COVID showed that you could have done this all along. All these positions that you were making people show up to work for wasn't necessary. And it could totally be done from home. And now corporations are forcing people to come back to work, right? Come back to the office full time, 5 days a week. Why? Why? We just showed you it's not necessary. I can be just as productive working from home, and I save on gas, and I save on groceries, and I can be with my kids, and I can pick them up and take care of them. Why? It's just it's stupid.
It's a sense of control to me because
Yeah.
the things you just said, that gives me a soft life, right? So work is not like my priority as much as it was before COVID, right? Like you get to spend more time, like you said, with the children and be a part of things that you would normally miss if you were in the office. And I think that whole dying or like killing yourself to try to get this promotion out, that culture's out the window because people like, look, I get a paycheck and I get to live my life. And so COVID taught us like there's a whole life out here and we kind of reprioritize life. And I feel like in a sense, corporate is like, no, you're supposed to die. You're supposed to run yourself ragged for me. And it's like, no, my kids got a football game. That's where I'm going today. So I think it's the whole loss of control in a sense. And I don't think they're viewing it. If you're in the old corporate mind, you're viewing it as you're losing something, but really a healthier employee, you probably get better results. And so I feel like they need to look at the social part of that.
Absolutely right. Absolutely 1000% right. I interviewed a young lady on my show, on my podcast. And she actually teaches that job hopping is how she got to six figures. And she teaches other women how to do it as well. And so, like you said, the days of me working for you, killing myself for you, nah, I'm not doing that. This is more important. It refocused us. My son, my daughter's baseball game is more significant to me than putting in these additional 3-4 hours and working for you, right? It's what it recalibrated a lot of us and showed us what truly was important. And you're right, 1000% agree, 1000% agree. And I hope we continue to push back against corporate America and these businesses that are like trying to hold us hostage, right? No, I don't have any loyalty to you. I'm gonna go where it best suits me. And what I'd love to see where corporations do what CEOs do, where I'm being compensated based off of my production and the quality of my work versus an hourly metric, right? If I can accomplish the same thing in 4 hours and I can go home and still deliver on production and quality and hit my metrics and hear my key indicators, then why not let me go home? Why keep me here for an additional 4 hours? And now I'm trying to find things to do. I'm scrolling on Facebook. I'm looking on my phone. I'm on TikTok. You know what I'm saying? I'm watching the clock. Because I finished 4 hours ago. I didn't need to stay here for 8. I didn't need to stay here for 10 hours. I have finished everything.
Right. And then you get accused of stealing time.
Right. Then let me go home. I still need that paycheck though. Right.
Right.
let me get out of here. Why keep me? So I would love to see a company adopt that mindset because that's what CEOs do. That's what business owners do. I don't care if the marketing director of the CEO, CFO works 10-hour shifts. They're paid on production. If you can come in at 12 and finish by 2, go home. I don't need you. I don't need to see your face in order to know that, hey, we just sold 200 of those $200 packages. Yes, you can go home.
Thank you. You did a good job.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I really do hope that we go forward and not backwards, but this is the United States, which we love so much. I'll just throw that out there.
She needs an American flag behind her when she said that.
Right. So Marcus, how did you get into investing?
I got into investing when a couple of reasons. One, I was very diligent when I was in the military in the Navy. I had a 401k. I had the military's version of a 401k. And the first 2 years in the military, I watched that 401k because they would mail you statements. And I invested $1,000 per year or per the time period, right? And so I invested $1,000, and I got to the end of the year. On my second year, the total contribution, they're like, look how much money you invested. And at the end of that, it was about $2,000, $2,100. And that's 2 years. So 2 years, I only invested $2,000. And this is my retirement fund, right? This is supposed to be my retirement fund. And so I realized, hey, I am on track. If I do 30 years, that's $30,000. That's probably not going to be enough money to retire, even though I gave the military 30 years of my life. And so I revamped some things. I educated myself, and that was my first time educating myself that there's other options out here. And the next 2 years, I had created about $10,000 and was able to invest and revamp what I was investing in and turn the $2,000 into $10,000 with just in 2 years time. So that was my first interaction with investing and looking at what do these numbers mean and how do I make them work for me. Um, and so that was the beginning of my journey. And then again, when I got out the military in 2014, I suffered job loss because I spent time in the military. In the military, you don't have to apply for a job, right? You just say, I want to go here, I want to be stationed here. And so the world had changed, right? I was just like Shawshank Redemption moment. The world had changed and I'm still the same. Right? When I joined the military, you had to walk into an employer's office and fill out the paper application, submit it, and then hopefully they call you back or they may hire you on the spot. And then when I left the military, and I did the same thing, I walked into a couple jobs I was interested in, and I said, hey, I'd like to apply to work here. And they're like, no, it's online. You got to go on our website. I was like, what? So the world had changed. I was institutionalized, and the world had changed around me, and I had to adapt. And in my adaptation and in the multi-level marketing, I realized that, we all need to be doing something else with our money. And I did what everybody else did, right? I got the house, I got the big picket fence, I got the home, I got the car, I got the college education, and I'm like, I'm no better off than where I was. And so I realized I need to do something else with my money. And my first investment was real estate, right? When I did a Google search, my first investment was real estate. So I researched unique ways to invest in real estate. And I bought and turned my first home into an investment property. And then my second and third investment went in real estate that produced the income. And then I ran into a snag, right? Which was I had some money, not a whole lot of money, but I had some money that was just sitting there. And I said, what do I do with this? And so same thing, go back to your best friend Google. And I Google things. It's like, I have this much money. What can I do with it? And the second thing was that came up top of the list was purchase and invest in ATMs. So I researched that, did a little bit of research, and then found some experts in the field and just did it. Just did it. Did minimal research, enough to become knowledgeable and dangerous, but no expert, right? But I had enough to start. And when I started, I had ordered my first ATM. It was delivered, programmed, and had a location and installed it. And it was so crazy to me. It was mind blowing to me because I didn't believe it. I installed the ATM, and within an hour of installing that ATM, it had a transaction. And I remember my crazy butt running to the bank that had set up for the ATM to make the deposits for the money and the profits. I went to the bank, went to the teller window, and I pulled out the dollar. I was like, I smelled it, and I was like, this is real. I really made money. Like that was so crazy to me, right? And so I was hooked. I went from one ATM to 13 ATMs and real estate, and then looking at other things to invest in to keep growing this money. And I've been investing in ever since.
And this came from Google.
It came from Google. It came from Google. It came from hardworking parents. It came from God. The most powerful things you ever find out is two things: is the day you were born. That's the first powerful thing, that you are here for a purpose. And the second thing that's powerful when you discover it is the reason why you're here. And so those two significant milestones is when you find them, there are grown men and women that still haven't found the second thing, right? And
Mhm.
so when I realized both of them at the same time, my life was transformed exponentially, and I got the bug, and I realized why I'm here, because we just talked about COVID. I suffered from COVID. I was hospitalized for a month and a half. Almost didn't make it, and that was the second impactful thing in my life. The first one is when I had got out the military. I didn't have any money. I was broke, about to lose my house, lose my home, lose my car, everything, and I was really contemplating just kind of giving up. And so those two things in tandem with everything we just talked about, with my life experiences, with the Google search, it created a perfect storm. And that's the man you see before you today. And so it's not just all, happy moments. It's not just all great times. There's some strife in there, and there's some hard times, and there's some struggle in there. And all of those things created the perfect storm to who you and I are today. And so we can't, when people ask you, what would you change about yourself? You should really say nothing, because you
Right.
wouldn't be who you are without that strife and those downtimes. And so yeah, that's how I got into investing.
Wow. Wow. I watch a lot of YouTube and I have never heard Google. Like, and yes, God is definitely, he holds the map, this and that. But for the fact of the Holy Spirit just to say, go to google.com, and you're like, okay. And you get this one thing, and then you're like, okay, well, you can put this. And I read about ATMs all the time, and I guess I never understood, how do you actually make money from the ATM business? Like, the bank, how does that work?
Absolutely. So great question. I had no idea as well. And like I said, it's changed now. It's no longer Google. It's now Chat GPT and AI, and ask AI this. But the ATM business was unique, and so you make money via the transaction fee that you collect from the ATM. And so that is something that was new to me, and that's something that I had to establish. Because these machines, when you order them, they're not programmed, right? So you have to I had to become familiar with programming at ATM, because the ATM is the shell, right? But you also have to connect it to the bank accounts and tell the ATM and program the ATM on where you want. The ATM is just going to collect data. It's going to dispense money, and it's going to collect data. You need to program the ATM to tell the ATM where to send this data and where to send all this money that it's holding, right? Because that's all it really does when you put your card in and you pin in. It just talks to your bank, says, does this person have $20? Yes, they do have $20. The ATM gets the approval that you have $20, dispenses the money, and then holds that information for processing. You need to program the ATM and tell it what to do. And so that money is deposited into the allocated bank account or bank accounts that you program it to do, and money will be in your account. And that's how you make money. So the money is made on the fee of the ATM, and there's also extensive stuff. It's more optional stuff that you can do. So some people register their ATMs for different programs, and so one of the ones that are most common is those cash, those ATM free ATMs that you see in like CVS or Rite Aid, right? Where it's like there's no fee if you use this ATM, and that's appealing to people. Well, that ATM is registered under a program provider that actually compensates you for charging their customers no fee. And so that's an additional stream of revenue if you enroll your ATM and register your ATM in this location under that program. So now you get free marketing and advertising and listing on that company's website as a ATM free. That's why 7-Eleven does it. That's it. They're making money. They're just not making it from you. The program that you're probably enrolled in, or most people are enrolled in, are paying them to offer free no fee ATMs to you. So that's an additional revenue stream on top of you collecting a fee just for regular processing and offering services. And then there's people who charge if you put a sign on your ATM. So like if you want to put signs on the ATM, those little billboard, those miniature billboards that you see on top of the ATM, or you can actually provide a commercial, like a little short commercial, like, hey, shop at Costco, save 30 cents by using this code. You are charging Costco a fee to advertise on your ATM. And so that's another stream of income. So that just those three alone, there's many aspects to ATM making money with ATMs, but those are just three that you can make right off the bat. It's not just cash, and collecting a fee. There's a lot of revenue streams, surprising revenue streams with ATMs. And what appealed to me about the ATM business is I'm not versus like other dispensing options like vending machines is I'm not dealing with FDIC. I'm not dealing with food, right? I go to one place, one building. I go to the bank, get the money, fill the ATM. That's it. I don't have to go to Costco. I don't have to have a Walmart card. I don't have to shop and get chips and Doritos and Snicker bars. One place. I'm going to the bank to go get more money. And that's it. And that was the real big thing on top of the additional revenue stream.
Wow. Thanks for explaining that, because I always wonder, because I mean, you see it on TikTok, get an ATM, and I'm
Yeah.
like, and then what? You know, so
That's it. That's it. Just get an ATM. And then people do it, right? It's just like Tide
right.
Pods. Go eat Tide Pods. Here you go. Now they're eating Tide Pods. And we didn't even understand why. We drinking bleach and we don't even understand why. He just told TikTok told you, the guy, the dude told me to go drink bleach.
Right.
Cures
Right.
COVID.
Right. So yeah, so thanks for explaining that. And it seems like easy money because people need to retrieve cash, especially well, no. Well, yeah, there are still some cash only places, even after COVID, because I know after a while it was cashless this and cashless that. But in like neighborhoods, like inner city neighborhoods, they're still taking cash. There's still some cash only things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's still
I,
lucrative.
I think more now than ever because everybody is like, especially with the introduction of dispensaries, so cannabis, right?
Mhm.
Banks don't mess with cannabis. They don't mess with dispensaries, and so the only option for them is to accept cash. So they love ATM providers like myself, and tattoo parlors. They love cash, and then this inflationary market with the prices that is going up on everything. A lot of merchants are now coming back to cash because Square and PayPal is charging a fee, right, to
Mhm.
get your money. And so I have a lot of barbershops that reach out to me because they want to go back to cash because this processor is charging me 5% transaction fee. And I can't give that to the customer to pay. I have to pay that. And so they want an ATM. So yeah.
So for the play, and this is the last question on this. For do the place pay you a rental fee, or do you pay them a rental fee to house your ATM machine?
So I am not paying anybody anything.
Yeah, let's
So
make
what?
this clear.
So I offer them a profit sharing split on the fee, and so
Mhm.
I bring this ATM. I maintain the ATM. I service the ATM. The owner of the business does not have to interact with it. I'll interact with the machine. They don't have to do anything. In turn, they get this ATM that's well managed, that's brand new, that won't break on them. And if it does, I automatically come out because I'm synced to the ATM and I get notifications and updates when there's issues. And so what I do is I offer a profit sharing to the business for this free ATM that's going to be self-managed. And 99% of the time they go with that. And so no, they don't have to pay me. They I've never had someone offer to pay me. I offered to pay them a commission and a split from the money being made from the machine.
Hmm. That is a smart stream of income.
Yes. Yes.
It's like it's so passive and so seamless.
It definitely is. It definitely can be. In the beginning phases, it wasn't right because
Mhm.
I was remember I was broke and I didn't have a whole lot of money, and the cash I was using was all my cash. And so I'm purchasing these ATMs cash. I'm filling it with my cash, and I'm literally running from bank to bank to bank trying to cycle, $500 between 303 ATMs. That's a struggle. That was some very sleepless nights.
Mhm.
So in the beginning it sucked. Today now I can really lay back and I can go a couple months without having to refill an ATM, but that took time and that took diligence. I've bought ATM locations from other people, and just the mismanagement of them is hilarious. Like the dude, he'd make $50 and he would spend it. So he was never growing his income. He was never growing that money and putting it back into his business. The ATM is still a business. And the guy
Right.
would be like, yeah, I would make $50. It would deposit it into the bank and then I'd go to dinner. What? So he stayed for years. He stayed like that. He stayed with $1,000 that he's trying to cycle through 3, 4, or 5 ATMs. That's not going to last, right? And that's a lot of stress. You got to invest in the beginning, but most people don't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's that part of entrepreneurship that I think that's the uncomfortable part, like not knowing where the money's coming from and taking a lot of your own, taking from yourself, not getting paid. And it's like once you get through that and you see the light at the end of the tunnel, but they say a lot of businesses fail within the beginning stages because of that one thing right there. So
Absolutely, because I wanted to
yeah.
attend all the marketing events. I want to put my name on the door. I want to be traveling to Vegas, and I want to see you doing me all of this. I was like, no, you need to invest back into the business and
Right.
shut your mouth.
Right. And that I feel like that need to be more advertised because on social media you just see the ending result. You see people like, I got $1 million in my bank account. It's like you could do it too, but they don't talk about how long
Mm-hmm.
it took for them to get to that $1 million or their origin story. And I think that is so important because that's needed for a person that's starting like, what? And they just seeing a dollar, like you said with the guys, just a dollar. Let's say $1,000, and it's like I'm nowhere near a million. So I feel like we need more real life, like
Big
stories.
facts. Big
Yeah,
facts. That dollar, I put it back, y'all. I didn't spend it. I put the dollar. I smelled it. I licked it a little bit. Then I put it back in the bank. I didn't spend it. So yeah, facts. Hashtag facts.
so you mentioned the topic of dating. So how do you navigate the dating world while managing all of these businesses?
So that was significant. In the beginning was a struggle, right? Dealing with real estate and having investment properties and then having ATMs. That was a struggle. And I realized I had to improve. I had to get better in my selection of who's a good partner for me. And so, it was hard because there's a relationship needs time and it needs your time and the other party's time, but it needs time in order to flourish. And I couldn't contribute a lot of that in the beginning phases of my entrepreneurship. So I'm trying to date while I have an investment property that again, I had an investment property and tenant just moved out. Place is nasty, needs new paint, new floors, and I didn't always have the money to pay somebody to do it, so I'm doing it, right? And so I'm here's a young lady that wants to spend time with me, and I'm telling her, babe, I gotta go paint this door. I gotta go, paint this kitchen, this living room, so that I can list it and get a tenant in here. And I'm offering her, hey, if you want to spend time, meet me at the property. Let's make it a date type of event. And they're not wanting to hear that, right? They're not understanding the journey. And sometimes you have to realize that who you're connecting with is significant. And so in the beginning phases of dating while building my entrepreneurship journey, it was I had to realize that I needed to become a better picker in partners. And I had to make myself better in selecting who was right for me. And when I started doing that, I realized two things. One, I'm getting better because I'm getting less of people that are not understanding my entrepreneurial journey. And two, I'm becoming better because I'm giving people that are not worth my time, right? I'm not giving them my time. And so I realized like as soon as like date number one, I've already realized I'm not the guy for you. Right. And so I don't even waste time. Where couples always used to complain about, man, that person wasted my time for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. I didn't have that kind of time. So I became really good at talking and plus the podcast and meeting big celebrities and guests. I became really good at asking the hard questions early to gain insight to who that person is. And then when I would hear the red flags, I would be like, whoop. And I would just, this is a trigger word, but I would ghost them because one, it's too early for you to have even feel some type of way about me ghosting you because we haven't even met. I would get really good at figuring out who this person was just over the phone. We'd never gone on a dinner date. And I could already tell by the questions I'm asking that I'm not the man for you and you're not the person for me. Let's end this right here, right now. And so I never had that issue. When I got really good, I never had that issue of going 2 months, 3 months, wasting time with people that are not a match for me. And that's how I navigate it. And then the other part is I invested in businesses that if you do them right and you scale them right, they give you a certain level of autonomy. So now I'm hitting that stride where again, $500 between three ATMs is a struggle and I'm constantly out the house. Whereas now I have thousands of dollars in these ATMs. Um, and I can sit for a minute, I can sit for a month or 2 or 3, 4 months and not have to worry about filling them a while because I invested earlier and I did the hard work earlier. And the podcast, the same thing. My just like this great podcast here that you all are watching, you know, there is a dividend at the end of this if you do it long enough and you stay consistent and you grow it and you invest back into it. There is a turning point. I have interviews that I've scheduled out till next year. So if I wanted right now, I don't have to do another interview for like 6 months, and and episodes will still be released continuously, dedicatedly, and I'm in the bed, right? So but it takes that initial investment. So that's how I was able to date, but I had to learn how to do it. It took time.
Yeah, so you kind of do it like a business in a sense. Like, is this worth my money, my time? Because time is something you can't get back. I
For
feel
sure.
like I'd rather lose money than time because at least I can get that back. So when you say ghost, because that is a trigger word, are you letting them know like this is not gonna work out, or you're talking to them 1 minute, texting them 1 minute, and then they just don't hear from you anymore?
So it depends on how long we've been talking. And so I get that. And that's a real thing. Um, Let me preface you by telling you how good I got at dating. I could talk to you today, learn everything I need to know about you today, and I will ghost you and not give you an explanation because I just talked to you once and today, right? Versus had you and I been talking for months, 2 months, 3 months, you owe that person an explanation, at least
Yeah.
bare minimum, or just let them know, hey, 3 months ago, you were cool. This happened. This changed. This is what's going on with me in my life, in my stage of life, and this is what I'm looking for. Hey, I owe you an explanation. And so I got so good that very few women got past phone conversations with me, and very few women got on a first date with me. Even less women have gotten on a second date with me. And so I got really good at asking the hard questions early and uncovering the things that I connect with. Prime example. Prime example.
I was
One
gonna
of
ask
the
you for that.
I saw it coming. I saw the twinkle. I saw the twinkle in her eye, and she's like, she gonna ask me. Let me just give it to her. One question that I always become, or one thing I always look for is compatibility. And one thing we all, I think, can identify with is mental capacity. I get aggravated. And I had to learn this. I didn't know this about myself, but I get aggravated when I'm dealing with someone who is not mentally stimulating me. And so when
Hmm.
I'm talking to someone and I'm just checked out, I'm playing on my phone, they're talking, but I'm disengaged. I'm becoming frustrated. I didn't realize what was happening until much again. I had to research and I had to learn myself. I had to spend time with myself. The reason why I'm frustrated is because this person is not stimulating me mentally. And so when I realized that, oh my God, it's not the person necessarily, it's just that we all want to connect with someone who is on our mental state or beyond, right? When I'm dealing with someone who's not at my mental capacity or beyond, I'm dealing with someone who's not engaging with me or setting off those triggers in me as far as stimulation and interest, then I don't need to continue to waste time, because the biggest killers of relationship is resentment. You don't want to enter a relationship with someone you resent. And we can attest to certain times where you've seen that person or that friend or that girlfriend or that your guy friend, and they're sitting next to their girlfriend or boyfriend, and as soon as the girlfriend, boyfriend opens their mouth, they roll their eyes, they disengage, they get frustrated, right? Just because their partner opened their mouth. And so that's resentment. And it's in our face and we see it. And the reason for that happening is because this person is not mentally stimulated by their conversation, and it is a killer of marriages. And when I dove into that and I realized, Marcus, the reason why you're disengaged because she's not mentally on your level. And so if I uncover that, I can uncover that on the first conversation with you. I don't need to take you to dinner or take you to amusement park or take you out to a theme park or take you picnicking to uncover that you are not mentally on my level. And a lot of people, especially doctors and nurses and medical professionals, lawyers, they all do this. They try and date people on their mental capacity, right? And so, what degrees do you have? Where did you go to law school? Where did you go to medical school? And they try and stay within that range. It's not uncommon for doctors to date doctors, and it's not uncommon for doctors to date nurses or other medical professions in similar or cross fields. Is because they're trying to connect with people on their same mental capacity because they want interesting conversations. They
Right.
want interest. They want to be stimulated while I'm with you. We call it, oh, I don't want to, he bores me. He's boring. He's interesting. Deeper than that, they're not setting off those synapses in your brain that strike you as interesting. And so you need to just cut that off because you're not going to change that. You're not going to change your degrees. You went to school, you have your degree, you know what you know. So to sit there and say, well, I could overlook that. No, you can't because you're still smart and they're still where they're at. So you can't change that. And you shouldn't base a relationship. Well, they'll learn. I'll teach them. No, they won't. You can't change people. You can only change yourself. And so control yourself. And so that's for your audience and for you. That's one thing you can ask or pick up on when dating to realize this is not going to work and just end it. Don't waste time. Don't waste their time. Don't waste your time. Don't waste anybody's time. I don't you're not here with me. I'm sorry. And just leave.
Not to just leave. I love that because you're right. How many people have, including myself, have ignored red flags because I'm like, oh, he'll come around. Or maybe, maybe this is just a bad day. And then you date this person along, and then you look up, it's a year, and you're still like, once again, the thing is, I have been in dinner with couples, and I have also been guilty of being like, just shut up. Don't
Mm-hmm.
open your mouth. Just look pretty. So you're right. If you're really looking for somebody serious, you probably should ask the questions, the hard questions at the beginning. But I think to be polite, people don't have those conversations because it's like based off of attraction when you first meet people. So you're like, oh, we'll get to that later. And then you find yourself in a 4-year relationship and find out that he want kids, but you don't, or vice versa, or something like that. And now it's a sense of obligation, like, okay, well, do I compromise what I want? Because now I'm comfortable in this person. I've been with this person for a long time, but it's like if you had that conversation in the beginning, it might have not went that long, and you might have had that choice at that moment, like, yeah. Because you're right. The longer you're attached to somebody, the longer it is to detach.
Yeah.
So
And
I
now,
get it.
now I'm feeling guilty because I owed him an explanation and I don't want to give it to him. Now I'm guilty. I'm guilt tripping myself. Why do that to yourself? Just end it.
Right. To be polite.
No, it's not polite to you. You don't feel better, right? And it's not going.
Right.
And most things don't get better with time, right? And so very few things get better with age. And so it's you're trying to be polite, but you're really making it worse, right? I feel unfortunately better walking away early than walking away later because now we've invested time, and you just said it. I can't get it back. I wasted 3 months with you. I wasted 4 months with you. I had other opportunities. I've had other guys, that's what you're saying. Other guys have reached out to me and I've dismissed them because you were
Mhm.
sitting here wasting my time. No, and you weren't a good match from the beginning. So it's actually not kind to that person and yourself to string them along. Just end it. End it. Disappear, ghost them, block them, change your number. This is because again, if you do it early enough, you don't owe anybody an explanation.
That's true. And Marcus, there is that sense of, and I'll move on after this. I'm looking at the time. We really talking. I love this.
Yeah.
It's that sense of loneliness. I think after a while, people just don't want to be by themselves. So I'm just gonna take this love the one I'm with type thing. Because I'd rather be with this person and try to make it work out than for me to be by myself. And I feel like that's part of why some people just kind of like stick it out.
And that's real, right? Loneliness is a real thing, and I'm glad that you said that, because it is a real thing, and it is a precursor to why some of us stay in things, relationships, friendships, all the ships, why we stay in these things longer than we should, right? And so that is true, and that's why I realize that we need to be better pickers. We need to work on ourselves and get really good. If Michael Jordan, right, any NBA champion, right, in order to them to get that Super Bowl ring and that basketball ring, that NBA ring, they have to practice at the things that they're bad at. So if I lost a Super Bowl, I'm not celebrating. I'm not. But how many of us do that, right? We lost something, we failed at something, and then we go celebrate the victory. We celebrate the loss. That's wrong. We need to sit back, stop, and look at what I did wrong. So the next time I enter the dating pool, the next time I enter the relationship pool, I can become better at picking winners instead of dating losers or people that I'm not compatible with. So that's why I said that. It's better for me to just improve my skills, right? Get better at catching. And we also got to get really good at noticing what's a red flag and what's a weakness, right?
Mm,
Everything, we're labeling everything as a red flag, and that's not true. A red flag is something that someone is uncompromising in. A weakness is someone that they recognize but they're working on improving. Dating a man who has a budget and is budgeting his money and says to you, I my budget doesn't allow me to take you to Olive Garden, but it does allow me to take you to this place over here. And is that a red flag? Well, some people will call that red flag. Why? Right? That's not a red flag. That's a weakness he has that he recognizes and he's currently working on. So we gotta get really good at noticing these things and differentiating these things.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And you're right about the stimulation. I've been married for like 14 years, and my husband still finds a way to say something in my mind. And I think I'm attracted to intelligence anyway. But when he says like something that I don't know, I'm like, tell me more. And it's amazing how his intellect can still just like capture me. So you're right. If he wasn't capturing my brain, I probably would just be like, oh, here he comes.
Oh gosh, shut up. Oh my God, let me go. Right? We do that. It's real.
It
But we
is. It definitely is. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your podcast. So, you are a fellow podcaster of the show, the Gentleman Style Podcast. Now, what is that about?
So, Gentleman Style Podcast is a show that tries to bridge the gap between black and brown people who are not doing well in the big ticket areas of life. We're not doing well spiritually. We're not doing well financially. We're not doing well with ourselves, with our health and wellness, and we're not doing well um, in the big ticket in relationships. We're not doing well in these areas, and so the podcast developed because I was learning on my entrepreneur journey while I was struggling with these ATMs. I was doing the real estate and I was learning about different investment assets and asset classes and assets between liabilities and other things. While I was I wanted to share those things while I was learning them. And so the podcast developed because I was learning things that wasn't mainstream. I had to dig. I had to dig and research. And this stuff is stuff that the rich know how to do, but we don't know how to do it. And
Mm-mm.
so the podcast developed because I wanted a way to give back to people and for black and brown people to have access to these key things, these key indicators, these metrics, these gurus without the heavy cost of a mentor, right? A $2,000 mentorship and all of that. And so the podcast, Gentleman Style Podcast, aims to give you access to knowledge points. I've had a grant writer on the podcast, not the grant writer that you sit there and they teach you how to grant write. You actually pay them a sum of money and they write grants for your business. I've had an expert who in professional come on the show who shared tips on how to start your own paternity testing business for $500. And within his first year of starting a paternity testing business, he made six figures. Who would not trade $500 for six figures, right? And that's the stuff that's out there that you and I and some of us weren't privy to, and that's not easily accessible. I've
Right.
had other entrepreneurs who have started ATM business. Had a gentleman on the podcast twice now who has hundreds of ATMs, and he's the guru. And I had a brother and sister on the podcast who teach you how to start your own ambulance service. how to start your own laundromat. These are unique things that we have access to, but are not aware that it's actually pretty affordable. The most One of my favorites is a gentleman came on the show who helps you invest in strategic metals. And that's different from what mainstream media will tell you. Oh, invest in precious metals, gold, platinum, silver, orthodox, right? All these metals, that's a typical thing. Strategic metals are not in demand tomorrow, they're in demand today. So strategic metals are the metals inside your cell phone, or the microchip that makes up your cell phone and allows your computer and the software and all of this to be present. The microchip is made out of a metal. That's a strategic metal that this gentleman helps you. If you give him a sum of money, he invests in those types of metals, the metals that help build rocket ships. That's a unique metal that is only sought after to build these rocket ships so they can go in space. That's a unique metal. That's a strategic metal that he takes your money and he's getting people 15, 18, 20% returns on your money. That's way better than the 2%, 1% that you're getting with stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And so that's how Gentleman Style Podcast came to be. And that's the experts and the level of professionalism that I'm trying to bring on the show. And we talk about relationships. We talk about sex. I've had a sex expert on the show in both facets. I had a lady come on and she shared wisdom and insight on different foods you can eat to stimulate sex and get your partner ready to go. So that's what I'm serving. So that's how Gentleman Style Podcast came to be.
I love everything about that. And where can we listen to your podcast?
So we are on all platforms, right? We're on iHeartRadio, Apple iTunes, Spotify, Audible, Ghana, Facebook, YouTube, Facebook business page, LinkedIn, and anywhere you get audio or video podcasts, we are there. And so if you forget anything, if you don't have any of those platforms, you can also get www.gentlemanstylepodcast.com. And that's where we list all our shows. But again, we are everywhere that you find podcasts.
Love that. Love that. What can we expect for you in the future? Like, what are you cooking up?
What I'm cooking up is what I've been, what I've been working on for a couple years. I've partnered and invested with a company called Child 420, and they specialize in the technology and the distribution of cannabis-based products. So I am now entering a kind of a similar industry because they have these mobile dispensaries that are set up like vending machines, but the vending machines have incorporated a lot of technology so that I can legally sell cannabis-based products without the risk of accidentally dispensing to minors. And I have now invested a large sum of money into this company. And so I now have grown to 3 dispensary locations. And so that's what's on the rise. That's what's on the future. I think, especially as laws change and continue to move in a positive environment, you'll start seeing a lot more of me and these vending machines pop up throughout the continental United States.
Nice. Marcus, I'm just curious, how many streams of income do you have? You've named at least like 3 or 4 since we've in a matter of 50 minutes.
I have 6.
6. Okay. And I read on Google that 7 is the number.
Absolutely. 7 is the number. I'm right there, but 6 isn't half bad either. And also too, I knew that number, right? I knew the 7, but I also learned that I need to focus. There needs to be something within your portfolio that is kind of like your bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people kind of do that, like, oh, I got 7, I got 8, I got 9, and then they're still not wealthy. Well, the wealth aspect comes from focusing on 1 or 2 of those things inside your portfolio, and that's the last part to that 7 or 8 income streams. Is you need to focus on 1 or 2 of those things that are really kind of your bread and butter and your baby, and what's really making the bulk of your money. And that's how you'll achieve wealth. That's the part that people fail to mention when they say, just get 7 streams of income. No, you need 7 streams of income, but you need to focus on a couple of them, 1 or 2 of them. That is your bread and butter.
Okay, and then the rest of them are just passive.
They're still passive, and they're adding to the pot, but they're not. I like businesses where I don't have to hire anybody, right? So hence the ATM, hence the real estate, hence all these these are very passive, and it allows me to focus on my podcast. It allows me to do other things, and it allows me to, when I was dating, it allows me to enter the dating pool and actually spend time instead of me looking at the clock while I'm having dinner with a nice young lady, right? And so that was the goal, and that was the mindset from the beginning. It took time to get there, but it pays off. It pays off. You just gotta invest the time.
Yeah. Okay, this was some very insightful things. Well, here at BYOK, we have a signature question before I let you go. If you could describe yourself in one word, what would it be and why?
Now it's philanthropy. Um, my word philanthropy, and the reason why I told you that I had two major significant events in my life that really refocused me and got me back in alignment and got me back with in touch with God. And right now, I realize in this part of my life, especially almost losing my life to COVID, is that it doesn't matter what I do. It's what you do, what people will write about you when you're gone. So, what will you put on your headstone? What will others put on your headstone when you're gone? And just try and have that 5-second imagery in your head. And if you're not happy with what people will put on your headstone, then you need to change today. You need to change that today, because that's a real thing. You could be gone tomorrow. And if you're not happy with your current standing in life, change it. And so now my focus in life, and that's what pushed me into health and wellness, is because people are not doing well with their health and wellness. We're suffering from anxiety, increasing rates of stress. People are not sleeping. And so cannabis, specifically hemp-based products, the ones that I offer in my dispensaries, help give back to people. I've given to date probably $3,000 worth of free product away. I've just given it away because I truly want to help people, and I want to change what people will remember me for, because it doesn't matter what I'm doing right now, right? It's our future that's important. And so if I can leave this world a little bit better than how I found it, then that's a win for me, because it doesn't matter about me anymore.
I love that. It's always bigger than us. And when we realize that it's bigger than us, there's freedom in that. And
Absolutely.
freedom from a lot of emotion too, right? Because
Abs-
whatever I'm going through, there's a it's for a bigger purpose and a bigger cause, and that is to help others. And so I love that. I love
Yep.
that.
Absolutely. It's not about the Dubai trips and the vacations and the Maseratis. No one cares about.
Right,
I don't care about that. But did you give back? Did you help
right.
somebody? Did you feed some starving person? Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. Life is not just to be meant to live for yourself. So, I do love that. Where can I know you gave us contact how we can find the podcast, but if just someone want to chop it up with you or learn about investing, where could they contact you or follow you on social media?
Absolutely. So I go by the name Marcus Norman. You can find me on all social media platforms, either by that or Gentleman Style Podcast. Again, it's simple. Marcus Norman, two last names, right? Marcus Norman. And then for any of my investment, because I'm gonna do it anyway. If you reach out to me and you're like, "Hey, I want to know more about ATMs," I just did this yesterday. Someone inboxed me about ATMs, and I just linked my show. So about me and investing, Marcus Norman, the podcast, Gentleman Style Podcast. Look for the big microphone.
Okay, okay. You know what? I really enjoyed this episode. I learned so much. It was like a what is it? What is it? It wasn't a melting pot. What they call it, a salad or something. I'm not good with euphemisms. It was a
You're
lot of
good.
information. Yeah, it was. Yeah, we went from investing to dating to to philanthropy, and I love that. I love conversations that just pop all over the place because that's how my brain works. So thank you for your energy and thank you for your time today. And listeners, I know you've grabbed something. If anything, don't be out here wasting your time. Like if it's a no, it's a no. And that doesn't even have to be limited to relationships, just period. If you feel like it's a no, it's a no.
It's very demure to say no.
Oh no, no. That word has made my platform now. Well, thank you again. And listeners, be sure to be kind to yourself and to each other. And until next time, don't forget to be your own kind.